My name is Katrina Meltzer, and I'm the Executive Director for the National Energy and Utility Affordability Coalition located in Washington, D.C., also known as NEUAC.
Um, what can you give a brief description of your position?
Yes. So NEUAC is a coalition, a broad-based coalition of diverse organizations, all dedicated to heightening awareness of the energy needs of vulnerable households and the need for energy and security in America. We bring together a lot of disparate partners, utilities, trade associations, local government, state government, grassroots nonprofits, and national nonprofits, all with convening with the idea that we would be reducing energy burden for families that are most vulnerable. So that's where we all come together. We might have different viewpoints and we bring different perspectives from our organizations, but we all come together on that one point that we're going to work really hard to make energy affordable in America.
Um, As the National Director of NEUAC, what are some of the most impactful strategies you've seen when it comes to implementing LIHEAP funding across the nation?
For LIHEAP funding, that's interesting. So I think the beauty of LIHEAP, and LIHEAP is the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. I should start there. And it's the federal program, the primary way that we fund energy assistance in America. It goes to every state, and then each state determines how they spend the funding. So it's a block grant, which gives it a lot of flexibility. And I think that's the most valuable thing about LIHEAP. The beauty rests in its flexibility. So the program can be adjusted in order to meet the needs of each individual state and or community. Um, that flexibility allows us to fill gaps in the safety net for energy affordability from state to state and address heating, cooling, emergencies, crises, provide weatherization assistance, and do energy education, all in proportion and equal measure to the needs of that specific state or community. So I would say flexibility is the most important part of the LIHEAP program. As far as other techniques that I think are very effective, as amazing as LIHEAP is, and as we have $4 billion plus assigned to LIHEAP funding across the country, which sounds like a lot of funding. But when you consider the massive need for energy security in America, we're still only able to serve about 1 in every 6 eligible families across the country. Filling in those gaps through some of the partnerships that NEUAC promotes is the other strength, I think, of being a part of this network of supportive providers, that fuel funds rise up to meet the needs in their grassroots community efforts, help fund energy assistance in ways when LIHEAP falls short or there is under-resourced, or when we run out of LIHEAP funds, these are the funds that help address energy insecurity in communities and in households that would otherwise fall through the cracks. So I think we also benefit from those types of partnerships and the local efforts to reduce energy insecurity.
Thank you for that. What are some of the major successes, or one success in particular, that you have seen anywhere in the nation in terms of amount of people served or the depth at which people are served by LIHEAP?
There's probably too many to choose from to pick just one, but I'll give a handful of examples that come to mind. In New York State, I feel like they've done a really good job at creating a continuum of program implementation between LIHEAP and the utility funds that are available for energy assistance, and they've made it a nice flow. They've made it easier to access, and they've streamlined the application process for people so that they flow nicely. The customer is protected for the duration of the winter. For example, they can they've can they've created a continuum that allows them to do that I think is really valuable. And that's one of the things that sticks out in my mind. In the state of California, LIHEAP Helps California has been devised, and they've created a really effective coalition of people who are delivering energy and weatherization assistance at the local level. And so getting feedback and creating a forum for advocacy and education as a state has been helpful. There are other states that have done that as well. There's the Coalition to Keep Michigan Warm and other coalitions that have been devised similar in other states, and they're all very effective ways to create a safe space for partners to come together and talk about how to move forward with energy affordability and educate one another and just keep in touch. Sometimes those are the best ways that we can advance programmatically in our field.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you and I are both in Washington, D.C., and both working at a federal level on things surrounding LIHEAP. But we are both from small towns in the Midwest. So if you're comfortable answering, I would love to hear how you personally relate to LIHEAP.
Yeah, so I cut my teeth at the community action agency level, administering programs there. And my official title when I was at Community Action back in the day was Director of New Business Development, which I learned very quickly. And those of you who are from a community action agency will relate. It just means that you do a little bit of everything. So here's a bunch of hats to wear, and you play a part and a role for each program that's administered by the local community action agency. And they do carry a lot of the heavy work of grassroots nonprofit programming at the local level across this country. They're celebrating their 60th anniversary this year, too. So I'm a proud alumna of Community Action. But even before that, I was a single mother who was struggling to pay my own energy bills. So my story is that we had a propane tank, and for rural customers, this is a reality for a lot of them that deliver fuels. In order to roll a truck down the road and come to your location, it requires a minimum number of gallons of delivery, and you have to pay for it all up front. Very difficult for some of our rural families, and that was the case for me in that time period. So there was a time in my life when I was eligible for energy assistance and was struggling to pay my own energy bills. I think that there are many people in this country that are one paycheck away from being in a similar circumstance. And I also think that a lot of us who are drawn to this work and in this network have either experienced energy poverty ourselves, or we have a sister, a grandmother, a friend who was in this position. And so it shined a light on the needs, and we carry that with us as we come into the work. So anytime a policy or a program change or any sort of program implementation is proposed at the federal level, I see it through the eyes of the single mom that I used to be, struggling to pay my own energy bills. Or I think about my own mother whose home was weatherized and how this policy practice would affect that person. And that's the lens that I use to measure whether or not something is worth moving forward on. It gives me sort of a practical application as we approach policy to what not only what is a grand idea, but what is a practical approach at the local level that will work. Both are important.
Yes, I agree. So for my final question, what advice do you have for state leaders moving forward past election season?
So there's a lot for those of us who live in Washington, D.C., there's a saying, inside the outer belt. For those of us who live inside the outer belt in Washington, D.C., there's a great deal of noise right now associated with the election that's coming up. We are going to have a presidential election, but also every member of the House of Representatives and 33 members of the Senate are also up for election in November. And Congress holds the purse strings for our country. So regardless of who's in the Oval Office, the changes that happen in Congress are equally or even perhaps more so important to programs like LIHEAP that depend on annual appropriations for a budget. LIHEAP is not an entitlement program. That means that as the need grows for energy assistance, the funds do not grow along with the need. Congress instead appropriates a finite amount of funds annually, and when those funds run out, they run out, which makes advocacy critically important, making sure that Congress knows what the need is at the local level and understands that. That's part of our role at NEUAC. So I think moving forward past November, we should be ready for anything. And we should also know that regardless of whether we have President Harris or President Trump, we're going to have hard advocacy work to do. And that's basically just education. So making sure that our thought leaders and policymakers and people who are in charge of our program and the decisions that they make affect the lives of the people who we serve, making sure that they understand the needs of the program, how it operates, why it exists, how it's been successful, how it impacts people at the local level, connecting LIHEAP to a story and a person and a face is really important. Putting a face on the program, I think it's really easy to cut a program. It's much harder to cut off a person. So when they understand how their constituents benefit from LIHEAP funds, it makes all the difference. I feel like, and it's part of the reason why after 43 years, the program has been so successful, is that it's bipartisan supported, meaning that both sides of the aisle have a reason to support a program like this, that it truly is a program that helps everyone. And stabilizes not just, when you stabilize a family, you stabilize a household, and that contributes to stabilizing communities. And I think that message goes a long way, regardless of party. It crosses party lines.
Agreed. It's a rippling effect and it's necessary.
Yes.
But do you have any other closing remarks?
I think I'd just like to say that it's LIHEAP Action Month in the month of August. And so if you have time to visit at the NEUAC on X, our social media platform, formerly known as Twitter, we're going to be rolling out a social media campaign and education campaign this summer throughout the month of August to highlight the needs of energy assistance and the people who benefit and some of the work that we're doing. Because it's August and we're coming off one of the hottest summers ever recorded, we're also focusing on the need for cooling assistance. So if that's something that's of interest to you, please pay attention to at the NEUAC and visit our website so that you can gain access to some of the tools that we've developed in the social media campaign, education campaigns, and share those out with your communities.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It was nice being here today.
Thank you.